All right, hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Racers News Network Live, presented by TSR. Let me try that again. TSR Racing Products, Dusen LLC, Hoops Fire Prevention, Blackburn Engineering, and Straight Line Performance and Automotive. We are going to be talking in just a few minutes to a returning guest, Brian Gawlik, who runs Top Alcohol Funny Car out of Division One. He is from Pennsylvania, and already had a pretty decent start to his season. We're going to learn a little bit about Brian, and maybe we can dive into the nitro injected funny car stuff. It kind of exploded, no pun intended, in the off season, and it seems to kind of have leveled off a little bit. And haven't really heard a whole lot about it, but I'm sure Brian can give us some input on what's going on with that class. Being introduced into alcohol funny car. Pete, may or may not be joining us. It's getting to be the end of the school year, and he's prepping for that with final exams and everything. So we shall ramble on here. So like I said, our guest, Brian Gawlik. Good evening, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How you doing?
Good. So for those that don't know you, let's start from the beginning. How did you get your start in drag racing?
My start in drag racing actually began at a tech school. There was a car show and a couple of nostalgia funny cars showed up. A real good friend of mine, Bob Rossetti, to this day is still a really good friend. I spent the whole weekend with him, working on some top secret projects that I can't give any information on to anybody about right now. But if it all works out, that'll be some pretty cool stuff. But it started off with I met him and I wanted to get involved with him at a young age. I met him when I was 20, and it started off making nostalgia funny car bodies. And I've been doing that to this day. I do it a lot during the winter because it's much easier to make them when it's not hot out. But for example, this winter I think we made somewhere around 12 or 15 bodies this winter. So we make them for inventory as well, besides customers, just so we have them for the summer in case somebody has an issue. But that all started 2009, 2010. And, it's evolved. Like I said, we started making fiberglass bodies together, and then now we make carbon fiber. Everything we make in fiberglass, we make in carbon. So that's where everything started. It started with the nostalgia funny cars, and, just through the years, worked my way up, helping people, learning, etc., and all the way up to where I'm at now.
Now, if I remember correctly, you got to drive the short wheelbase Funny Farm Pinto car. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was my very first experience in a funny car. I was at Maple Grove on a Sunday, and for lack of a better way of putting it, I double stepped the pedal the first time because I just wasn't ready. I was involved with them for 4 years or so up until that point, and basically took care of all of Bob's cars when, and unloading the cars, service them, and etc. I did all that with Bob and he taught me a lot through the years. But my first experience was driving that. I had expressed some interest in driving the car, of course, because who wouldn't? And he told me, he's like, you want to drive it? You need to get your super comp license, go to Hawley School, which I did. And I had that booked, I want to say somewhere around 3 or 4 days after he told me that. And he was not expecting me to get it done that fast, but I'm one to not let an opportunity walk away from me. So did that, and then he asked me, he's like, well, if you're going to do this, you need to get a fire suit. So I actually bought Joe Giacona's last fire suit that he wore and used when he was driving for Bob when he still had the Rolling Stone out there. So and I still have that fire suit to this day, but 2 years ago I bought a brand new one-piece Taylor. So but yeah, that was my first experience, was the Funny Farmer Pinto, which is, from what I understand, we haven't really found any conflicting information, but technically speaking, the fastest Pinto in the world. So not that really means anything, but we can say that that's the car we built. So, and I got
that, I have to admit, that is probably one of my top favorite nostalgia funny cars. There's just something about obviously the Pinto body, because it's something different, even though they they had their time in pro stock and stuff like that. But to see it, fit to a funny car chassis, and having to fit that tiny wheelbase, because
Yeah.
you guys didn't stretch that car a whole lot, if at all,
No,
correct?
that car is 118-inch wheelbase. We had to do a little bit, but that body, that mold that we have was pulled off of the original Funny Farmer Pinto from back in the 70s. That was the original car, believe it or not, that we had to morph a little bit and make some changes to make it a little bit easier to make, and in areas that you wouldn't even notice, because all the bodies that we make them so that, not that they're easy to make, but it just makes a more quality product. That Pinto, believe it or not, too, the Funny Farmer Pinto, the one that Bob still has and is running currently, was the very first carbon fiber car we ever made. That was an experiment, and to see if we could do it, to see, as we were learning, and it's been a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of experimenting through the years to do what we do. But that was an experiment to build a body for Pete Gallen when he was still running Nostalgia Nitro. And when we built that car, and did a bunch of stuff to it, but we pulled that car out of the mold, and with all the windows in it, it was 68 pounds. So that tells you that what we tried to do worked. And that body's, to this day, is still unbelievably light. There's, it's unbelievable. You see guys pick their bodies up when they need to pick pick the nose up or whatever.
Right.
With the Pinto, you can literally do it with one hand without effort. It's just kind of ridiculous.
Now, what's the rough weight difference between the carbon fiber funny car body and a regular fiberglass one?
So I like to use the newer Camaro that we make, the 70 Camaro that a lot of the Nostalgia Nitro guys ran. Mike McIntyre had one of them and set a whole bunch of records with that car, because it was streamlined for what it was, and it did its job. But if you were to make that, if we make that car in fiberglass, we can make them multiple ways. We can make them, I want to say, heavy but super strong, yet we can make them light and strong, but they're not as strong in fiberglass. And then we can make them out of carbon, and we can do some hybrid stuff where we mix and match a little bit, but we tend not to do that. The main difference between a full carbon and a full fiberglass Camaro is about 20, I'm going to say somewhere around 20 or so pounds, maybe 25 pounds. But the real difference is just the strength of it. The overall, it can take a lot more abuse, and not saying that the fiberglass bodies are inferior, but carbon fiber is obviously just much more stronger all around. You could park a semi on a carbon fiber body in comparison to a fiberglass body. So that being said, there's a lot more strength. The selling point that Bob likes to pitch is don't look at the money end of it, because there is a big difference in price costs, but the big thing is, look at your crew. You got a bunch of young guys, put a fiberglass body on it. You got a bunch of older guys, and you don't want to see anybody get hurt. Spend the money and get the carbon body, and everybody will appreciate it. That's pretty much the difference there.
Very cool. Now, was it the funny farm Pinto, the one that had kind of you talked about it once, and I honestly can't remember. Was it a Crower Glide, maybe?
So the one that Bob's campaigning right now?
It was either the one that you drove, or I can't remember, because I know we had talked about it before. You had talked about the Crower. I think it was the Crower Glide.
So that was Rocky Perone's Super Camaro / Screaming Eagle body. Body that had a Crower Glide in it, with a 3-speed Lenco, LB20 supercharger, etc. on alcohol. I drove that for Rocky for, I want to say, I think it was 2 years, and we're still really good friends. And it was just one of those things where things were moving forward with what I wanted to do racing. I had my nostalgia car that I was building, because I had an altered that was just an injected big block that putting together a big cubic inch motor, with a high helix retro 1471, and I wanted to go low sixes, and had a pedal clutch for it. It was kind of my stepping stone to try to get my feet wet and move into the top alcohol class. And there's a whole story on that, all that involved, and me and Lou Scrow talking, and because I crewed for Lou for a few years on his alcohol funny car, and that's where I fell in love with the class. And I wanted to do it at some point or another. You know, like I said, long story short, Tequila was involved on Lou's end, and I wrote back about 8 years after he got out of racing to do what we're doing now. And you know, we have a good thing going. We have a lot of fun. My crew, Tom and Charlie. I went to tech school with them. You know, they're friends. Even though Tom's in Ohio and Charlie's in Virginia, you know, we're separated, but you know, we make it work. And you know, we're all car guys, of course, but we're all around the same age, except Lou's much older, and we pick on him for that, but that's okay. You know, we have a good chemistry going. I got a couple other crew members that, you know, Bob Toth, I'm sure you know who he is. Everybody knows Bob.
Bobby.
So Bob, you know, he helps out where I need him here and there. And then a gentleman by the name of Ronnie Kistler, he helps at the shop every once in a while. He's lives around me and Lou. He's just a good dude and you know, older gentleman, but you know, just comes over and he just does the stuff that nobody wants to do, like cleaning. You know, he'll clean all the tin work, and you know, you need guys like that, because that's the stuff that matters. You know, and we're very much self-conscious on how our cars looks. You know, to be presenting. You know, this is a high class in my opinion, and you know, to come out with a bucket of bolts, you know, and you know, a bunch of rag stuff to play. It's just not the way to do it. You know, you got to look the part. And, you know, we generally care about the way things look, and we'll look at something as we put it together. And if we don't like it, we'll tear it apart and redo it, you know, just because it doesn't look right. And it's just, have a lot of self-pride in what we do. And, you know, we believe in, if it looks good, it makes you feel good. And, you know, I'm not saying that necessarily you're going to do good, but it lets you focus on the things that matter, you know, because everything's in place and it looks right. And, you know, confidence. So little team there, but yes, long story short, I drove Rocky Prone's car. I had a Crowler Glide, you know, and you know, that Lee from an Idol, but we started messing around a little bit where we bring the RPMs up like a pedal clutch up against the pedal a little bit, and we tried some things and we had some fun with it, and that car went pretty quick. I went I want to say, I think it was a 617 at 231 in that car. So it was but that was a lot of fun to drive. And Rocky it has me on his short list of drivers if he needs a backup driver, and I'd always be willing to drive that car because it's a good car.
Very cool. Yeah, because he has that. He still has they have the Frantic Forge, right?
Yep, the Frantic Ford he still has. That's you know, he has his man cave / museum at his place now, and he cycles stuff around. He's in the middle of doing a bunch of work, and he actually just put his son Joey in the was it the Screaming Eagle that he was in? He was in the Screaming Eagle in that car to start making some license passes, and he expressed some interest in doing it. And you know, he also has the Big Time Memories car that he's redoing, and you know, that's going to be a beautiful piece again. He's just, you know, Rocky doesn't know how to stop. He'll never retire.
Very cool. Nothing wrong with that. You can't stop. You got to keep going.
No, there's no reason to stop. Right.
Now, do you ever have you since you started your own operation stepped back and hopped in one of the nostalgic cars?
Since then, no. Would I? Yes, but I don't need to drive somebody else's car unless they need me in an emergency. It's not my car to drive. I have my car. I have my fun.
Right.
You know, I'm not going to say no for having a good time, of course, but you know, I would never want to take a ride from somebody, or, you know, like it's just not the way I am, you know, but I'd always be willing to help somebody out in a pinch. Just, you know, I have a license for a reason, and, you know, it's meant to be used. So anybody out there in the Facebook and YouTube world out there, I'm just kidding, but, you know, it's, you know, I absolutely, I love to drive. It's why I'm doing this. It's a lot of fun, and, you know, you're definitely not doing it to get rich. Like, everybody knows that. So if you're not having fun, there's no reason to be doing it.
Right. Now, how long have you had the Camaro, the blue car?
This is year 5. This is my
Year
5th
5?
season, which I actually thought at the beginning of the season it was my 4th year, but somehow it all ran together in my head. So, but this is year 5.
Now let's go back to last year. How was 2022 for your racing program?
Last year was a little warm, for lack of a better way of putting it. You know, we had the fire at Maple Grove, and we just made some issues in the fuel system, and we figured out what was going on, and made some changes. We thought we had it under control, and that was obviously a mistake. But we went to the end of the year, and we did all right. Stopped hurting things as much as we were, and it was running okay. But it just, the car didn't seem to want to respond to us, and the changes we were making, things didn't make sense. So we went over the winter, after having a solid season last year. I don't even know where I finished. I forget where I finished nationally, to be honest with you. I know I finished fifth in the region. But so I have a 15 on my car this year again, like the second year. Again, it's all a blur at this point. I don't even remember.
Right.
But where was I going with this? At the end of the year, we started looking at stuff, and like we can't be going out there racing and be putting pistons in it every run and not know what's going on. It's just it's not safe. I mean, it's obviously a relative term, but we just didn't know what was going on. So we looked at a bunch of stuff and went through everything over the off season and thought we had everything figured out and calmed down. We went to Gainesville and we had the 2 races back to back, and we made 7 laps between both events. We didn't really have the greatest 2 weekends opening, but we had the blower off 6 times, and we had the heads off. We burned a bunch of stuff up, and it just we were lost. We got back, and we just did not have a good time down in Florida. It really was not a good time. We didn't have fun, which is probably the first time I would say we didn't have fun since we put the car together. Don't get me wrong, racing's racing, and it hurt stuff here and there, but it just, the amount of work that we put in to do what we did, we put more work in Gainesville than we did in the previous 3 years. And it's just, it didn't make any sense. So we got back and we made the decision to send stuff out, get our fuel pump checked, looked at every little thing you can think of, and we found problems with stuff that we just missed, fortunately. And we regrouped, and we were going to go testing, but we decided, well, time frame, I don't want to go south to test because of weather. It was still cold up here in lovely 55 seasons of Pennsylvania. But we decided to go to Charlotte, and almost didn't go because of the weather. We waited until I waited till 3:30 on Tuesday when they extended the withdrawal day. And when I looked at the weather, it looked good. And we're like, I'm like, based off the weather, we got to go. Unfortunately, we did, because it ended up working out. But, we got there and it's pouring rain, and they're like, well, this was a mistake. So it was just like up and down with what to do. And we got there, and new, fuel system's been gone through, and we reset the fuel system and made some changes, and, we're starting over. And every pass, it got faster and faster and faster. It responded to everything we did. And we made 7 passes down there, or 7. No, we made 6 passes down there. And the first time the blower came off was when we got home, and, just to inspect everything. And we took everything apart, and the motor is like it never ran again, which is what we were really after. Don't get me wrong, we're not afraid to work on the car, but if we're going out there and running a 60 flat, or, 59, and we got to take the blower off every time, we're not doing something right. We go out there and we're running 40s with all the other guys, the heavy hitters, and we nip a piston. It's okay. We'll pull the heads off happily. But, we're running the car, and we're not running it hard enough that we should be hurting stuff the way we were. And it just wasn't fun. But we went to Charlotte, and, fortunately we made it to the final with a little bit of luck, and which was not expected at all, considering not even going to the race. It was the original plan at that, before we left. But, we made a lot of progress. We learned a lot, and, we're ready to move forward with this. We got Maple Grove up in 2 weeks for the points race. So we'll see what happens.
Cool. How did you like the 4 wides?
Everybody has their opinions on it. It's different. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in the sense that it's cool to do something different. I'm glad it's not every race, because it kind of takes away from the whole aspect of what drag racing is one versus another. But it's cool to do. On the track, it's pretty neat to see cars on the side of you when you're going through the shutdown, or wherever the case is. I remember eliminations 1, I was in lane 2, and Bellemere was on the other side of the wall because of the concrete wall down the middle. Yep. And he was ahead of me because, of course, he was flying all weekend, and congratulations to him again for winning the event. But I remember seeing him drive that car over the, not that I was watching him or anything like that, but I remember, you can see the cars on a run, and you can tell when they're just going straight. You could tell he was driving that car, and I watched back to the video, and I'm like, wow. It's just, I had a first seat to that, and it was pretty interesting. But and then to have was it Makash in the lane to the left of me? I don't even remember who was in the first lane. It might have been Andy for all I can remember. But like I said, it all turns into a blur after a little while. But everybody we raced against we had a lot of fun down there, and it's something different. It's cool to do it. If I was able to go to Vegas and do it there, Vegas and then Charlotte, that would be kind of cool, I guess. But after that, let's go back to 1x1.
We kind of had a debate about a month or so ago on here about, should the 4 wides be a specialty race and not count for points? Just have it, like a new version of the Winston. So, something like that. From a driver standpoint, what's your take on that?
I don't see that it would really matter to me. I mean, the points end of it, we still have first place, second place, third and fourth get, the semifinal points. Really, as a racer standpoint, if you win the race, you get race winning points with one less run on your car. That's a win, that way. But I mean, I don't really see it matter. And like I said, it's something different. It's a challenge, but stage in the car, you still have your lane to race. You still have to do your job. And if you don't do your job, you're not going to win no matter what. So, it doesn't really matter what's going on in the other lane or lanes in this case. Just put your head on your shoulders, focus on the tree, know which lane you are, and do your job. To me in the car, it doesn't really affect me in any way, shape, or form. If I'm in lane 2, lane 3, lane 4, or 1, you just got to know what light to look at, and the rest of it's the same. So driving standpoint, to me, it doesn't really matter.
So you don't find it to be like a distraction or anything, having 3 other cars. Do you have tunnel vision when you race?
No. Tunnel vision, it's hard. Like, I got tunnel vision driving some really fast street cars on the street, because there's a lot of things going past you, because the trees and the bushes and signs are real close to you. On the drag strip, there's not a lot around you, so you don't get that sensation that you're going fast past things. Plus, you can't see anything. I mean, you sit so far back in these cars, you only can see in front of you anyway. Right. And you can't turn your head. It's not like I don't even know all the classes, stock or whatever, where they're staring at the other driver in the other lane while they're going down the track to see if they're going to break out or, play those games. You don't have time to do that. If you have time to look at the birds, you're going to hit the wall, you're going to hit the other racer, and somebody's going to get hurt. You focus down track, and you got to drive the car and be on your game. You need focus in this stuff, and there a lot can happen in 5.5 seconds. And it's still, to me, to this day, I watch what we do, and from a spectator standpoint and a driver, and it still really doesn't hit me like we're going that fast, which is good and bad. But I mean, I do know I'm going that fast, but it's not like, I don't think to myself when I'm driving down the road, I wonder what 260 would be like going down the road. Like, it's just not feasible that way.
Right.
But it's deceiving. On the racetrack, there's less things around you, which is good, because you don't need distractions. But there's no signs going by. Like, the only thing that I really notice when I'm driving the car is the cones, because you see this orange object, just, it's there and it's gone. It's there and it's gone. And that's really how you know where you are on the track, is referencing those cones and the finish line cones. It's not like you have 45-mile-an-hour speed limit signs that you can see, like, when it goes by when you're doing 100 on the street. Not right. Saying that, but
never.
No, we
There's
tested
no wink, nudge in that statement at all.
Yeah, we test in Mexico. We don't test in the United States. So,
Yeah.
so it's that's the other thing too. When I went, I built a car for my business partner. It's an old Acura 91 NSX with a little 4-cylinder Honda motor in it, and drove it on the street. And the thing is fast. It's just unbelievably fast. We're actually redoing the project right now, but to another, we're going a little bit further with it. It's You still there?
Yep. Yep.
I didn't know if I got a phone call. Sorry. Um, I didn't know what it was going to be like to drive it at the racetrack. A friend of ours rented ACO. We went down to ACO and I drove it. And that was actually the first street car actually the first car of any kind besides a race car that I ever took down the drag strip. And I can tell you that when I made the first pass, it was like 1150 or 1160 on the first pass. I forget. And I was at half track and I was like, why am I still out here? Because I got so used to driving my car and going so fast that in that 5.5 seconds, 6 seconds, I was only at half track. And I'm like, wow. And that car is tiny. So on a big track like that, where you could have a lot of vision in a car, like a normal car, it was a very slow feeling. I was able to see things. I was able to see people watching the car go down the track. Not that I was paying attention to them, but it's amazing how you really focus in an alcohol car to the finish line and nothing else. And, I couldn't even tell you how many people are in the stands. I couldn't even tell you if there are people in the stands when I'm in my car, because it's not in my radar of things that matter. I get in that car, that body closes, my burnout, set my RPM at the launch, hit my shifts, and keep the thing straight, because it's, Matt Gill will attest to you, the final there. He gave me a little love tap, and it's, these things will move so violently fast that it's almost uncontrollable. It's amazing that we're able even to drive them, let alone when we see stuff like that happen. And Matt's a great driver, absolutely phenomenal driver, and for something like that to happen, it just tells you that it's a difficult thing. It's a difficult thing to do, and you can't get complacent. You got to stay on top of it, and you got to practice. You got to practice the game. You got to practice this and go through it in your head. And you can't practice. I shouldn't say you can't, but you don't practice worst case scenarios. All you can do is watch them happen to other people when they happen, study the video, learn from it, go through scenarios in your head, and hope that, God forbid, something happens, you can react an instinct to make it the right way.
Now, was the fire at Maple Grove the worst incident on track you've had happen, besides the car warranty conversation with Matt?
Yes. The situation with Matt, honestly, I don't think was a big deal at all. And I mean that because I saw him cross the center line. Obviously, he was ahead of me. And I made the decision because I remember my I don't want to say accident, but I remember my situation at Charlotte in the first year driving. When I crossed the center line there, your reaction is to slow down as fast as possible because you don't want to hit anybody else. You want to get out of the way of the other driver because they can't, hit you, etc. So your goal is to get back in your lane and slow down. So when I saw Matt cross and I saw him he got close and then he got closer. And I was like, well, he's going to hit me. So I counter steered away from him toward the wall for a split second. And then I steered back into him because I thought to myself, well, I don't want him to push me in the wall and I just steer into the wall. And that'd be a worse scenario. But I also made the decision at that point thinking he hit me twice. Our headers made contact, tip to tip. And then his headers contacted the rocker panel just in front of the rear tires, rear tire on the driver's side. I felt both taps and I thought to myself, if he hits me again, it's going to be my wheelie bar and that's going to spin me out. And that can't happen. So I made the decision not to lift and I stayed with it and the car felt controllable. So I went with it. I ran the car out a little bit further than I normally would, to try to get down track further because obviously I'm not able to see what's going on behind me. I don't know what happened to Matt. Fortunately, he brought it right over his lane and everything was good. But, in that scenario, you don't know what's going on behind you. I don't have a radio headset. I'm paying attention to the NHRA officials, the flaggers at the top end to see if they're telling me to do anything. because of course I've never been in that scenario, and not that I wish anybody would be, but you start thinking like, well, what do I need to do to make sure if he is coming down my wall on my lane, to not be close to the wall. So I tried to stay toward the center of the track, but in my lane, not knowing what was going on. And, fortunately everything happened the way it did. And, Matt came up to me at the top end, apologized high and low. And I told him, I said, listen, we're standing here talking. Our cars are in one piece. There's a couple scuffs. We got a story. That's all that happened. Fortunately, that's all that happened. Let's learn from it, move forward. And he's been super apologetic, and I get it. It's not an easy thing to, as he put it to me, he's like, it's not only did I cross the center, but I put your life at risk. And I told him, I said, we put all our lives at risk when we strap into these cars. It's part of what we do. It's a calculated risk. We put the best car we can underneath our ass, and we go out here and we have fun. It's definitely not something any of us want to happen, but it's drag racing. Anything can happen. And I told him at the top end, he was pitted next to me the whole weekend. I told him at the pits, I said, we can go line up right now if it makes you feel better. I got no issues with you. And then I still to this day don't. We've talked many times since then, and I hope we get to line up against each other at Maple Grove just to do it, because it's, like I said, it really, to me, I have no feelings on it whatsoever, other than it was another experience check mark, and we can learn from it and move forward and try to make me a better driver.
Yeah. Now the fire at Maple Grove, you actually got pretty lucky, didn't you? You didn't have a lot of damage. You had some, obviously, but not.
Yeah, there was a lot of cleaning, lots of cleaning, fire suppressant. Shout out to Firefox, Delaware Chassis Works, down in Florida. They came on board as a sponsor after that, believe it or not, and is taking care of me. God forbid I have anything else going on or etc. But if you guys need anything, I can tell you that the Firefox products work firsthand. I remember hearing the bang, seeing the fire, and pulling the fire bottles right before I pulled the brakes, and I was like, okay, here we go. And I was prepared to slow down as fast as I could. And when I saw that there was no more glowing in my fire windows and there was no more like raging fire, I decided to not slow down as aggressive, because I knew, well, I pulled the fire bottles, that stuff's running underneath my tires. If I grab the brakes too hard, I'm going to spin out, hit the wall, lose control. And, if you watch the video back, you can see that the car bounced around and moved around a little bit. In the car, I didn't think it was that bad. The video makes it look a lot worse, but it was definitely on the edge of being a very bad scenario. If I would have waited, who knows, another second, the fire could have not gone out, because, for whatever reason, it just picked up and went. The fire happened because it banged the blower. It was too lean. And the blower came off and it ripped the fuel line, and it set the fuel and the oil on fire when the blower came off. So, there was because it popped the burst panel, etc. So there was a little bit of oil there because of when it banged the blower. I think it ripped the spark plug wire out and dented the tube, so a little oil came out there. I don't remember now, but I know the fuel was the main reason, which is obviously a really bad reason. It got caught. It just got cut when the blower came off and hit the body. So we made some changes since then, so that if God forbid it ever happens again, and hopefully it doesn't cut a fuel line. Again, it's a race car though, and you can't predict everything.
Yeah. Now, in a situation like that where you had to pull the fire extinguishers, are you automatically reaching down to start to release your harness and get the hell out of Dodge as soon as you can?
No, my harness, and per the rules, but you're not supposed to release your harness till you're off the track. I wasn't interested in releasing the harness at all, because I was still going over 250 miles an hour when I pulled the fire bottles. And, God forbid I released my harness at that point and the car doesn't stop and my brakes fail because it burns a brake line, shouldn't, because of all the safety features we have right now. But you never know, anything can happen, go off the track. I mean, it would kill me. So that harness was not coming off unless I was stopped, which at that point I did, and again, learning from other experiences, when we're at the race shop at Lou's, we always have NHRA TV on or some sort of racing on, and we see the old wrecks and whatnot. And I look at a lot of these old ones where these guys are having fires and fuel and alcohol, etc. And they're in the car forever, and they're not getting out, and it's just raging on fire. And I've made the decision early in racing that if I have to jump out of a moving vehicle and break my arms and legs so I don't burn alive, I'm doing it.
So
I'm not,
yeah.
you can fix bones with metal plates and stuff. Burn damage, it's not something that I want. And, to make that decision is tough, but I feel like that's the route I would go. I'm not going to use the word tuck and roll, but I'd rather get out of a moving vehicle within reason. I'm not going to jump out of 200. Like, that's just not happening.
Right.
But if it's slowing down, but it won't stop, and I'm aiming for the sand trap, and it's raging harder and harder, I'm going to get out of there, because who's to say that it's going to suck the oxygen out of me? And even though I got the fresh air system, anything can happen. I run out, whatever the case is. I'd rather deal with broken bones than being burned, because if it knocks me out and they don't get me out in time, it's over. And
Right.
try not to do that stuff. And but I do learn from I try to learn from other people's, unfortunately, mishaps. And that's what our rule book is written in. The rule book is written in blood from people getting hurt and killed. So safety is my biggest concern, and focus. There's no striving for safety with me.
Right. You get into the sand trap and you flip over, and your escape hatch is
Can't get out.
just a pretty piece of the body sitting there watching. Yeah. You can't get out. Well, let's not experience that again.
Yeah, no, I mean, they say if you're going to drive a funny car, it's either when you've been on fire, or if you're going to be on, or not if, but when, I should say, you're going to be on fire at some point. So it's, I checked that box off. I'm done. I won't do that anymore.
All right. So I have another subject I want to kind of get into a little bit with you, because I know we've chatted offline about this a little. Over the winter, I mean, towards the end of the year, it was kind of a rumor. Then it kind of picked up speed over the winter. And then they said that injected nitro was going to be part of top alcohol funny car. I haven't seen, not that I paid that much attention to the YouTube stuff for NHRA TV, but I haven't seen one yet at an event. Has there been one there yet?
Mick Steele brought one out he's been testing. He planned to come to Gainesville. He planned to come to Charlotte, waiting on some parts, waiting on testing to figure some stuff out. He did bring it out to the Indy Regional. Was it last weekend or the weekend before? I forget. Unfortunately, he didn't qualify. I haven't had a chance, to be honest, talk to him about it, because I talked to him about it. Like, I like to know that, like, who's coming to the races and whatever. I'm not against it, and seeing them, I got to word this carefully. Do I want it in our group? No, because I see the issues and the parity issues, and the one's better than the other for the most part in the dragsters. Do I know anything about it? No, I'm not going to pretend to know anything about it. I'm not going to say my mindset's changed on it. I'd rather it be all alcohol cars. The reality is they aren't there. So if they're, and I told NHRA in the meetings that we've had, in the private racing meetings, the interest and ideas, they were asking for ideas, things to do. I said to them, you can add whatever you want, but if these cars aren't anywhere sitting, waiting for a place to race, it's not going to do anything. And you're relying on guys. The issue comes down to simply the way the cars are, the racers are being treated, and money is a big factor, and not just payouts, but other reasons, from recertifications and what things cost, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I told them they had come up with a couple ideas. They had said injected nitro. They had said nostalgia nitro, the current Heritage Series cars running together, because their rule package has them running about as fast as us. Again, it's a nitro car. They're nostalgia bodied, cars, etc. And then, there was some campaigning to have nostalgia bodies brought in to alcohol funny car, opening the bodies up to allow them to run in our class. It's great. I said to them, not a problem. If that's what's going to do it, if there's only 9 cars showing up to a national event and you release these rules and now we have 20 cars show up, that is awesome. I said, it will not happen because there's not a single car sitting out there right now that is ready to run an alcohol funny car based off the other rules. There is not a single nostalgia funny car on alcohol out there that has carbon brakes, that has the safety system, the Leahy safety system, that has all of the requirements, fresh air, etc. There's some cars that have some things, but etc. A lot of the nostalgia racers that are out there, I'm really good friends with, and they go out there and they match race and they have a good time. I can't think of 2 that would be willing to put up the $15,000 to $20,000 it is to upgrade their car to make it legal for top alcohol funny car. So that rules package and bringing in nostalgia cars, I didn't think was going to work, and unfortunately hasn't. Because like I said, I don't want to sound negative about any of that stuff. I want the stuff to work. I want there to be cars out there. I don't want there to be buy runs. I want to have to earn my spot in a 16 car field or an 8 car field. I don't want to just be handed that spot. That's not fun. And I guarantee everybody out there will say the same thing. We want to earn, we want to race. But that obviously didn't work. Is there stuff in the works going on that I don't know about? Could be, I don't know. But I haven't heard or seen anything, and I know a lot of people. So, and know a lot of things that are going on in the back doors, of nostalgia racing, etc., because that's where I came from. The nostalgia nitro thing, with mending them with our class, I thought was a great idea. That never went anywhere. It might be, they might decide to do that down the road. I have no idea. The injected nitro, I said the same thing to them. I said, the majority of the people that have an alcohol funny car that aren't racing is because of money, or because of the way they're being treated, or because to bring a car out for the beginning of the season, it's going to cost somebody, close to $10,000 in recertifications and this and that and parts, etc. You're asking people to build a car that doesn't exist with a rules package that the people that know about nitro say won't work, and because it won't be competitive enough. So you're asking somebody to spend $100,000 plus on a car that's not proven. And I find that very difficult to do. Once Mixed Steel figures this out, once, the few other cars that are supposedly out there being built, everybody knows who's doing it at this point, for the most part, but there's like 3 or 4, I think. Once those guys get it figured out and iron out the details and make the car more competitive, we all know the rules are going to be adjusted to figure things out and get them to be more competitive. Because of course, as a racer, it's not fair that their setup they're allowed to run isn't competitive to us. Why would you want to run the car? That doesn't make any sense. Because we're racers. We go to race to win. We don't go there just to say, hey, we came racing. So I don't see somebody wanting to spend a whole bunch of money to build a car that's, you're not going to qualify at events anywhere. If there were full fields, if there were no full fields, yep, you'll be in there, but good chance you're going out first round because the car just isn't there. It didn't make sense to me. So what I said to them was simply, you want to make all these changes, that's great. But if you think it's going to increase the car count, it's not going to do anything. That being said, you got to make rules, you got to make changes, and it's going to take time for things to go into effect. I get that. And to see the effect of a rule change. But truth behold, as many people said, I won't mention names, but everybody know who they are. If they allowed injected nitro into the class, they would sell all their stuff and leave. And since they did, there's been less racers out there than there has been increase in cars. So it had a negative effect as of right now, in my opinion. Obviously I don't wish that. That sucks. All the guys that decided to stop racing, they're great guys. I talk with them. I consider all of us friends. The alcohol class is a family in itself. And, we all enjoy racing together and we'll all do anything we can for each other. That's the way it is. We'll do whatever we can to help another racer up until our cars fire. And even then, so if you needed something, we would do it because that's the way we are. We're out there to have fun more than anything and be competitive, but also be safe. So, I've talked to Mick a couple times and asked him how things went, and asked him a couple of details, and it seems promising, but it's definitely gonna be a work in progress. And fortunately, Mick is a good person. He's got good people around him, and he's smart. He's got a beautiful car. It's if I'm not mistaken, it's an old John Force Mustang body, painted in his typical orange, black, silver, or gray, paint scheme. Wild, just really, really nice car. Because his dragster was beautiful too. So he likes to have nice stuff. But I hope I get to race next to it sometime soon, just to say I did. And I hope I beat him. Of course, that's an obvious thing. But I early on I was 100% against it, but at this point, with the way the car counts are, I just want to race somebody. Whatever has to happen at this point. I haven't raced one yet, obviously, but it's going to be what it is. NHRA is going to stay on top of the parity for everybody, them and us, because it's got to be fair, and that's the biggest issue that I see going on.
Compare the car count from last year to this year. Is it still trailing off, or is it kind of leveled out, or maybe even picked up a little bit?
So the car count issue is multiple issues. It's not just lack of money. There's the economy is not the greatest. Everybody knows that. It affects a lot of people. Most of the guys that have an alcohol car are business owners, and you got to focus on work. You got to put food on the table. Everybody's got their stuff they have to worry about. Some people are not affected by it because they have multiple revenue streams, etc. They're smarter than most of us. But I want to say it's about the same. I want to say it's down. Like I said, there's a lot of factors to it. It's not just money. There's just fuel cost and travel cost, part shortages. There's still issues with parts, getting things here and there. It's not as bad as yet last year was, I don't think. People are able to get connecting rods at this point. It's a little bit longer than normal, but you can get them. You just got to plan accordingly. There's some cars coming back out because, they've got parts. They're ready to go racing again. Friend of mine, Wayne Morris, he's coming out racing again. He's putting a car together, and hopefully he can make the Maple Grove Points race, which will be great. Wayne's helped me in the past. I raced against Wayne when I was helping Lou with his car. He's a good dude, and same boat. He's looking for parts, this and that, and I'm doing whatever I can to help him because it's another car out there. I know a few other racers helped out, and just because it's hard to find stuff because nobody wants to get rid of their stuff because you can't get replacements. But if it puts another car on track, I'll give him whatever he needs. Be smart about it. But I would say the car count is about the same because some have parked for reasons, some have come back out. So it's kind of at the same point, but it's not like we saw 12 cars at one event last year and we're going to see 16 this year or 18 this year. It's going to be probably the same cars.
Right. One of the other things I wanted to hit on real quick, and then we're gonna let you get inside with your family, obviously, is that you did a really cool thing for a young lady that was battling some health issues a few months ago. Of course, talking about Danielle Alexa, she had, like I said, she had a few health issues, and you and your team stepped up and made an offer to her. And I would like you to tell everybody what you did.
So we had a contest going on, just Facebook followers, etc. You put your name in, and we were raffling off some stuff. And actually, you reached out to us when you didn't win because you had told us if you won, you were going to donate your stuff to her. And when you didn't win, reached back out with you and said, well, we'll send you some stuff anyway. We'll send stuff out to her. And then the next step that we went with that was we told her that, forgive me, because it's been a while since I've talked about it. It was for the national or it was for the regional? Regardless, it doesn't matter. She's going to be an honorary crew member with us at the Norwalk race, which I want to say was the national event. But
I believe it was the national,
yeah, we are going to be at the regional as well, which is the weekend after Maple Grove. So if she's watching, which I'll reach out to her and let her know that she can swing by, and she's more than welcome to hang out, and I'll put her to work. Nobody doesn't work in my pit, whether it's cooking, which Charlie is very good at, which I'm sure he won't let anybody take over his job at cooking. But when it comes to anything, there's always something to do, and she's gonna help us out. So
cool.
Hopefully it makes her feel a little better. I know she's had some really good progress. She's had a couple setbacks since then, but things are going really well for her, from what I can see. So I'm excited for her, and look forward to meeting her.
Very cool. So from a working man's point of view, what is it like knowing that you have this toy to go play with?
Drugs would have been cheaper.
It's like that meme that makes its way around Facebook every once in a while. Teach your kid to love race cars and they'll never be able to afford to do drugs.
Yeah, it's so accurate, and we joke about it, but it's not even the money aspect. It's the time and the commitment and what it does to you and how you do things. Like I do things in life now because of how I race. There's no cutting corners. You do things the right way or you don't do them at all. It's just that simple. And when you cut corners, people can get hurt. It's to say, again, going back drag racing to regular life, there's a right and a wrong way to do things, and there's no in between in the way I do it. So fortunately my crew, Lou, that's the way it's the way we are. If that car is not right, it doesn't run. It's that simple. It's working every day. In fact, part of our top secret stuff that we've been doing in the behind closed doors that I can't talk about, the car got real dirty over this past weekend, the chassis, etc. So I brought it to work to clean it, because it was in another location. Again, unfortunately I can't give any details, but it was at another location. It got real dirty and dusty, and I brought it to work, and I had to bring it over to the race shop on Monday. I'm at work and my car's sitting there, and I'm working on it's a 2017 Camaro 1LE. Unfortunately, the customer had mice get inside, so I have to gut the interior, get the dash out, dead bodies that are apparently in the dash because it stinks. And I'm sitting there ripping this dash apart, and I just look over and I'm like, that's mine. Like it's still kind of like it hasn't really hit me, but it does. Like I don't let it get to me like, wow, I have this and that, but it is pretty cool to think that I get to play with this. And I'm among, it's got to be less than 100 people in the country at this point that gets to play with an alcohol car, between dragster and funny car.
Right.
It's a very narrow group, and it's pretty cool. When we were moving it, it was on a rollback, and the headers are on. The blower wasn't on it, but the headers were on. The motor was in it, and you just see all these people looking like, what is going on? What is this thing? And
what the hell is that thing?
Yeah. And I'm in the car chasing it, right? Following it. And I just see these people's reactions, and it's pretty cool. I was hoping to have the car back together for a little benefit that was going on around here for childhood cancer, but unfortunately we just weren't done with what we needed to do. But I want to start doing some more local stuff and charity things, just because, I like to talk. I mean, that's no secret. I like to talk about it. But, one of the things that we like to do as racers is, and especially in alcohol, is we like to talk to the fans and get them involved and get them excited and share our passion with them. One of the things that I always do is if a family comes over and asks questions and they got some kids with them, and they want to, they're just, excited. A lot of the times the parents are more excited for the kids, but I like to throw them in the car and, let them get pictures and just, make an impression on them and show them that with hard work and, a little bit of luck, but a lot of hard work and saving your money, you can do stuff. You can achieve things. You you can come out and have fun and do what you love if you're willing to put in the work.
Right. Very cool. All right. How about your sponsors that help make your program happen?
Well, let's start off from the top. Penn Grade 1. They came on board again this year. You know, it's the blood of my engine. And, you know, fortunately, in Gainesville and last year when we had the fire, all the damage and all the burning of pistons and all the damage we did to the motor, just making mistakes, not one bearing has even looked like it was going to have an issue. I mean, it really is impressive stuff. So if you're not sure about it, Penn Grade 1, hit me up. I'll do whatever I can to get you in contact and get you stuff. Specialized Autocraft, Jeff Davis, Jeff Zallis painted the car, fixed the car. They're going to have to do a little bit more repair work after Matt hit me, but they said thanks, by the way, Matt. They just nostalgia friends. I met them in nostalgia world, good people, and do phenomenal paint work. And they're based in New Jersey. So if you need any automotive repair, body work done, those guys are, second to none. Delaware Chassis Works / Firefox, for the fire suppression system, you need to hit them up. If you want good stuff, it works. That's all I can tell you. Obviously you and the Racer Network, letting us share on your page, and it's actually got a lot of views and helps us, so I appreciate that myself. My brain's going blank here. Mac tie downs came on this board, the quality tie downs, as far as the straps for your car. We developed and we're developing another style, but the tow ropes for our vehicles, they'll do custom tie downs for anything you can think of. Whatever you want, they'll do it. And they're USA made, and they're better than anything I've seen. They really are impressive. Smith Systems, high-tech sensors, crank sensors, wheel speed sensors, you name it. They build stuff for the space shuttle. I mean, if it's good enough for the space shuttle, it's good enough for our stupid little race car. So I haven't had a sensor even remotely come close to looking like it was going to have issues. Even when we physically caused damage to them, they still worked. So, shout out to them. Supercharged Motorsports, Mike, drawing a blank here with his last name, but Mike Reynolds. He's now located in Florida. You need Star Racer belts or any sort of some racing products, you can hit up Mike. My brain's got to come back here for a second. Well, or
it checked out for a minute.
What's that?
It checked out for a minute.
Yeah. Well, I spent most of the day smelling mice, for lack of a better way, because it stinks. So I probably killed a few brain cells there. Yeah. Wow. I'm missing a few here, and I apologize. Bonafani clutches. Bob Malloy's been taking care of us. Clutches. You guys need stuff, hit him up. He's got stuff that's working. Things are getting better with the clutch program out there, and the stuff is working. We've been running it for the last couple races, and it's been very good. So if anybody has any reservations, don't be afraid to hit up Bob with Bonafani. And there's one more, and I'm drawing a blank here. It's just Steve Lowen. Steve Lowen. He's one of the last guys in the country that have a Radio Shack in Jersey. So if you need stuff like old school Radio Shack, go hit up Steve.
Very cool. If people want to follow you on Facebook or wherever, how can they look you up?
We have our Facebook racing page is Gawlik's Grow Racing. Obviously you can go to my page and you'll see that everything is my personal page, Brian Gawlik. But we have an Instagram. I don't even know what it is. Tom takes care of all my social media stuff for me because, of course, being self-employed and working on everything all the time, it's tough. But Tom definitely does more than just a clutch. He's a vital member of our team, and I really couldn't do it without him. And he was joking. We had plans to test at Maple Grove this Thursday coming up, and Tom couldn't make it, and Charlie was going to be able to make it, but if they all can't make it, we're not going. It's just my team is, I trust them with my life. They really are a great group of guys, and when they work on my car, I don't think about anything. I just drive, except for the stuff that I worked on, because I think if I did it or not. But when Tom says he did something, it's done. Like, I don't have to question it. If Charlie says he did something, it's done. I don't. You got to have that kind of confidence. So Tom takes care of all my Facebook stuff for me, because he has the time and he's willing to do it, and he's good at it. He's landed a couple sponsors for us, and it's a team effort. Yes, I get all the publicity, I get all the stardom, you could call it, or whatever, because I drive the car, I own it. But when we go up there, if we win around, if the car wins around, the team won around. I didn't win around, we did. And we do it together. I can't do it myself. They all know that. I hope they know that. But my team is my team, and I wouldn't change that for anything.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, listen, Brian, we're going to let you get inside with your family, but thank you for coming on and hanging out. It's always fun to talk to you.
Not a problem.
You do most of the work. I just say, hi, how are you? Go.
Well, I do talk a lot, but like I said, we're alcohol racers. We like to talk. We like to share our passion. We care. We generally do care about this. And, my top secret stuff that I got going on is directly to try to improve this class. And we'll see what happens. Hopefully we can make some moves with it. We can generate some buzz, and time will tell. It's going to be it's probably not going to be anything this year. It'll be for next year, but we'll see what happens. It's a lot of work, all I can tell you.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, maybe down the road, we'll talk more about it then.
Sure.
All right, Brian, thank you for coming on and hanging out. I appreciate your time, my friend.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right, Brian Gawlik, everybody, our guest this evening, top alcohol funny car racer out of NHRA Division 1. Be sure to check out him and his team page on Facebook. And for next week, going to have Rob Keister is going to be joining us. I'm going to be talking about the first event for Mid-Atlantic .90 Association. Rob's going to be coming on the Tuesday after his events to kind of do an event wrap up. That's something new we're doing this year. Obviously they were supposed to start a couple of weeks ago, but Mother Nature decided, not happening. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are out of here. We will be back next Tuesday night, live at 7:00 with Rob Keister. Thank you, everybody. Thank you again, Brian. Have a great night.
Thank you.
All right.